So before we get too far into this, I'm going to tell you a little bit about me.
Can we turn the front light on?
This is my Twitter username. You can use that to tweet how brilliant I think this is going. Don't tweet about the thing I can or you can tweet abuse if you want. Not fussy, it's all followers at the end of the day. You can't have a refund though because this was free, so tough luck. Just as a bit of a heads up as well, for some of you who are a little bit shy, there's going to be some audience participation later on. So yeah, as a warning I guess. If you're not cool with that, then I suggest you just like quietly walk away at some point during the first half. And what I really wanted to do today was take something that is kind of inherently uninteresting to me, and that's exactly what to say, it's part of my job, and make it more interesting. So what I naturally did was create an unholy matchmaking between the world of working on a project and a team, trying to deliver a web app or a website, and preparing for a zombie apocalypse, which is, let's face it, a lot more cool. Let's see what we just got. Zombies. So zombies are obviously a really enduring and popular myth ever since the late 60s, when they kind of sprung into cinema through George Romero, the kind of current incarnation of what we think of a zombie is. They've been really popular. They've been the bad guy in literally every video game ever. That's a fact. And they've, taken over TV screens with The Walking Dead, books about zombies. In fact, I'm going to reference 2 separate zombie survival guides in my talk tonight, as well as some other books. Well, one other book. I'm not that well read. And I think it's very interesting to think about what zombie films represent to us. And I think there's a lot of talk about how they pose moral quandaries and philosophical questions, and they represent an existential fear of dread.
Some zombie apocalypse things gone too far. You can turn them away from something.
Save yourself.
When you got the
roll it if you want.
it's just this black switch.
This is where someone comes out from the curtains.
Here's the audience participation. Run for your lives. Not going to happen.
Sorry.
Anyone seen the latest Walking Dead yet? Yesterday's episode?
No, I'm sitting for
spoilers. I can't believe Carl died. I'm joking. He doesn't die. He never dies. Okay, while we're getting set back up there, I guess I will do something here. Ah, cool. Back. Walking Dead, I just mentioned that, and project management. So I guess I need to kind of explain myself and say, like, what on earth does project management and zombies have to do with each other? And the answer is actually nothing, literally nothing. But I really like a good metaphor, and that's what this is. This is a metaphor. Train, rhino. And we're going to give it a go and see how far we can get, how far we can stretch this metaphor, really pummel it into the ground until you guys think it was a good idea. So zombies, like most science fiction, are actually a canvas on which you can kind of present part of society for closer examination. And one of the really kind of core themes they often represent is how you deal with things when everything goes to shit. When the shit hits the fan, what do you do? How do you work as a team? It's kind of like a microcosm of society and how that society functions in isolation. And actually, it's not too difficult to see why that would actually be a little bit like working in a project. You're working together for long hours, you kind of live with these people, you have arguments, you don't have quite as much fear of your own death, usually, unless your boss is a terrifying psychopath. But there are some similarities there. So one of the most fun things we're going to be doing today is making your P-Day plan. So this is a P-Day plan, rather than a Z-Day plan where you prepare for what you would do when the zombies come, which everyone's done, right? I go to the police station, I go to my mum's house and say goodbye. We're going to make a P-Day plan for when projects come crawling at your door instead of like undead hordes. And I would have loved P-Day. And then we're going to try and test it out. We're going to see whether you guys would actually survive a hypothetical scenario based on your plan. So there's kind of several elements to it. I'm going to go through the steps with you. And the first step is building a team. That's what the stock image represents. Team. So building a team is obviously really important. And this is a quote that I quite like, just making a little thing, you can read that yourselves. But basically the core idea that it's difficult to work in teams is something that hopefully you guys recognise, that you're not sitting there thinking, I love teamwork, it's great, yay! It's really difficult, but the rewards can be great. A team who are successful are capable of literally anything, and I do believe that. This quote is actually from Max Brooks, who's one of the leading authorities on zombie fiction in the world. He wrote Zombie Survival Guide. That's a reference, if you want to look it up. Big reference. And I mentioned him a couple of times actually. And when you build your team, there's a lot of things you have to consider. Namely, which roles go into the team, and how you keep your team relatively lean. So, one of the problems that face traditional zombie teams is the idea that the team could be too bloated. You know, if your team's got too many people in it, some are going to die. That's going to happen. And projects are the same. If a project has too many staff, too many cooks, spoil the broth, too many people in the project, it's a bad idea. A good rule of thumb is that your team should be the minimum number of people who can effectively get the job done and deliver something of value to the client. Obviously there are some roles you fill. I've got some Lego figures to demonstrate roles. Yeah. Not Lego. So most teams also have a bit of a choice to make in terms of who leads it. Most teams, in my experience, will either tend towards having a ruthless leader rather than being a democracy, either by some kind of popular vote or just because one person wants to do it and takes that role. I'm not suggesting you should kill your workmate and take dominance over them, but it's a good idea to think about who is the leaders in your team, because I think that no team is complete without at least one leader, and a lot of teams I think have multiple leaders, and that is totally okay as long as you can work together. But a team with no leadership whatsoever, I often think is actually destined to perish. You need somebody who's capable of pulling people together and driving them forwards. One other thing I wanted to mention on teams. This is Chad Kroger from Nickelback. In Hollywood films, they like to add a pointless asshole to every team that you just kind of really want to die and get eaten. Obviously, in the real world, you don't want to do that. So, if there's one takeaway you get from today, don't add a pointless asshole to your team. So the second step is about preparation.
Before you hear to break it to you, Jen.
Are you the Chad Kroger? That's sad. I'm sorry. So, on the subject of preparedness, this is from the second zombie reference survival guide I have in my flat. It's not sad. And the basic idea is that if you're not preparing, then your chances of surviving a zombie apocalypse are infinitesimally small. In fact, I've made a graph. A pointless graph, because you can't really see their numbers. But, I'm going to put the numbers with you. Surviving a zombie apocalypse without preparation, your chances are just 1 in 20,000. For comparison, your chances of fatally slipping in a bath or shower are 1 in 2,332, and your chances of getting hemorrhoids is actually 1 in 25. That's the yellow one there. But my talk of project managers to hemorrhoids is for next time. So, not going deep into that today. There are two things you need to be preparing. One is your tools and one is your team. We might as well start with the team, as we just mentioned. That's the bath that you fell and slipped in. That's hemorrhoid code. I'm not doing a good job of keeping up with the slides. So, your team should all know their responsibilities. One of the most important things is that everyone understands what their role in the team is. Obviously, you don't have to make a whole plan in every finite detail, but it's important to know who's going to be liaising with the client, if there is one, who's going to be taking care of this particular section of the development, who's going to be making the tea, who's going to stab a zombie in the face, or the other two distract it. Those questions are definitely worth asking, and you should have that plan. Tooling is the sort of thing that should come kind of naturally to you over time, I would hope. And the kind of classic example is about a carpenter who could theoretically bang in a handle at the end of the screwdriver, but what he really needs is actual hammer. So, just like your zombie team needs to have the best weapons available to them, your dev team needs the best tools for the job for them that it's easier. There's a much better chance of coming out the other side if they do. I think we've got another quote from Max Brooks to that effect somewhere. Yeah. Max Brooks. It's a great picture by it. It's good. So one of the things that you're going to be needing is actually more than just a tool, it's your base. and there are thousands of things that kind of compete to be our kind of organisational backbone these days. You know, you've got things like Slack and Trello and Basecamp and Teamwork and Maven. I'm not going to recommend any particular ones. What I am going to say is that I think it's really important to have what we would call a singular version of the truth. The idea that there's one place where somebody could, if they wanted to and they were bored, read everything in it and then fully understand what you're doing, know what's left to do, know what needs to be done, and be able to join that project as a new member of staff potentially. So, just like a zombie team needs to find a base and they need to keep it fortified, they need to be able to find their weapons as quickly as possible, you need a base that needs to be kept updated with the outcomes of the meetings, and you need to be able to find your knowledge as quickly as possible. See, metaphors, it's working. You're getting into it, I can tell. So, you can't just go to the pub, unfortunately, that cannot be your base, but you should have one. One of the other things, backwards, this is a disaster. There's a guy, there's a mall, there's a base, supplies. So, talking of supplies and accessing them, it's actually very important to kind of keep tabs on those things, and a lot of teams I've seen don't, in a way that would kind of potentially shocking to people who know about these things, but there's kind of two things that you run low on when you're facing an undead zombie horde, and that is time. Oh, bullets and food. Bullets and food are the two things you run low on when you fight zombies. And the two things you run low on when you're doing with dev projects is time and money. Time and money. In both cases, when these things run low, you only really have two options. One of those options is like a kind of supply run. Maybe you can get some more time, more budget out of the client. Maybe you're really lucky and they trust you to be like pay as you go. So I'm jealous of you. But sometimes you have to deal with a period of starvation, and that just means you take a hit financially, or you work really late nights. And obviously none of those things are good things to happen. You don't want them to happen. But I think they are worth preparing for, because experience tells us that they do happen all the time. The other part of taking stock, and this is too far again. From Zombieland, one of the rules of zombie survival is that when in doubt, know your way out. And this is a really important rule for project management as well, because one of the things you need to be able to know is when can we stop? When can we potentially bail on this and still deliver something of actually good value to the client? When can we actually end? Where is our exit? And for most of us, that's our MVP or minimum viable product. Basically, if it all goes terribly wrong, what do we have to ship in the least to make this worthwhile and not just a terrible nightmare? Ultimately, however, eventually a panic will set in. And it's always despite your best intentions, and it's a crucial time for any project and for any zombie team. This is the part of the film where people in the zombies world, they die. Hopefully you won't, but you will face people who are more terse than usual. You will deal with people trying to isolate themselves. People will start to play the blame game potentially, because they're starting to worry about their own job. And it's really important not to try and rise to that stuff, to try and not be above it, but to try and guide the discourse in a valuable way. And I think language is actually really important. Most people don't realise the way they say things. I know I'm just as guilty of this as everybody else in my office, but just the way you talk to people, and the way you make them feel involved and make them feel like it's not all their fault is actually really, really important. Because if you isolate people, you aren't really a team anymore, and then you are truly destined to fail. So, the end of any scenario, that's from World War Z, by the way, great book, is you survive or die. So in a zombie scenario, the ending is binary. You either live or you die. And the great thing about project work is that actually you get a second chance at every little thing. So make the most of that. If you've not planned like this before and you go through this scenario, then you have time to plan now for every future eventuality that happens. You know, have the retrospectives, have the meetings. If you can identify somebody that you've kind of failed to communicate with, maybe someone you don't particularly like, you think, well, I work with them, we don't talk properly. That's a relationship that actually you can work on, and the onus can be put on you to try and make those things better. Sometimes it's just about saying to clients, fuck off, you don't want to work with anymore. Sometimes, and more often, I would argue, the fault lies within the team, and it's just something you have to try and address together. I don't have the answers to those questions for you. I can't tell you exactly what you should do to make everything better. I know those questions are worth asking, in the same way that I believe that everyone should know where they would go when the plague comes. I believe that everyone should know what they should do when the project goes badly. And I suggest you do have those discussions in your team, both about zombies and about projects. So we're going to put that knowledge to the test a little bit. And does anyone remember those kind of like choose your adventure books they used to do back in the day? We're going to do one of those. I'm actually going to sit down for this bit because I don't have this memorised off by heart. We're going to play. I'm going to read the book. You guys are going to make the choices collectively by raising your hands. And we're going to see whether you guys will actually survive based on what little knowledge I've given you so far. And the first thing we're going to do is introduce you to the cast. Oh, square wheels. This is important. A lot of agencies have what I call square wheel syndrome, which they feel they're too busy to improve, and that's the common response you get to this kind of stuff when you try and identify these issues and talk about them with people. You really have to try and drive that change because a lot of agencies feel this way and they don't realise how insane it is to be too busy to improve. It's an insane position to take. But as I was saying, let's play! Yay! The cast are not actually over there. We've got the quartermaster. He is also known as the producer, the PM. The quartermaster is a pro at organising and keeping stock. When rations are low, this person is the first to know. We have the mechanic, aka the back-end developer. I'm sorry, back-end devs, that's the only picture that came up for that. These guys are the make things work department, and they have technical skills to kind of keep the project and the team moving forward. We have our DIY guy, or gal, who is the front end, and the whole concept seems to be cleaning out the medic and get it back on its feet. So I'm just going to quickly sit down for the next bit of the story, and the first choice you have to make is which one of those characters you guys want to play as, and the story will adapt accordingly. It's like an Xbox One story.
Which was that?
Always patching things up.
No, just making it look pretty. I think all I took from it was making it look pretty.
So who wants to play as the quartermaster? I thought so. Nobody likes that.
God, since I am really the only, since I am God, calling me out.
No. Who wants to be the mechanic? I'm deciding. A few of you coming with the mechanic. Who wants to be the DIY guy? Okay, who wants to be the medic? Who doesn't give a shit and thinks this is really weird? Cool. Alright.
Medic.
I'm going to pick for you then, and the medic had the most votes, so that wins. You guys are going to be the medic. Congratulations. So, this is where I'm going to take a glass of water and try and do my best audio book voice. It's winter. And as you look outside, you're disappointed to see that it is already dark. Did it ever get light today? You're not sure. You've had to head in your last project, which you just finished off, finally. That one was a real nightmare. Back to normality. Or is it? You look up from your exquisite, thoughtful blog post about the colour green, but something seems amiss. You can't quite figure it out. Your spider sense is tingling, and you feel a chill that runs up your spine. Suddenly, the quartermaster comes running up to you. "They're here," he cries. "Oh God, why?" You look at him like he's a complete lunatic. "Haven't you seen the news, man? They're everywhere. Clients, swarming the streets and devouring agile teams just like ours." It sounded preposterous at first, but then you remember the time the developers used the wrong hex code back in 2013. There's totally a precedent for this. Why didn't we see it coming? The door begins to rattle as the clients press against it. Did I mention we're in a garage? Anyway, the door begins to rattle, and you slowly, ever so slowly, creep towards it and tilt your head, pointing your ear at the outside. You hear their moans. "Delays." It's a serious science experiment. You have to act fast. It's time to choose a base, which is also going to be your vehicle. You have two options. The Teamster X Pro, it has all the bells and whistles, if anything, maybe too many. Or option 2, I'll write everything in a document share team, then copy it to Chat++ throughout the ordeal, referencing the files which are uploaded to our space, and also I'll email them sometimes. Who votes for option 1? Who votes for option 2? Unfortunately, you've been outvoted, so it's option 1. Okay. Alright guys, jump into the Teamster X Pro. Not you, Jim. You stay here. Sorry man, it only seats 4 due to restrictive licensing. Jim's screams do eventually get drowned out, and as your team smash through the door and get to work with their impressive array of firepower, which you very cleverly plan ahead of time, you should bring that up in your next peer review meeting. But the good times don't last forever. Your Teamster X Pro breaks down on a nearby dirt road. The mechanic and the DIY guy are going to fix it together. Mainly the mechanic, let's be honest. But now you have 2 options. Option 1 is split up so the quartermaster and medic can find supplies. Option 2 is stay together and have each other's backs. Who votes for option 1?
Absolutely. Project manager.
The correct answer is 2.
Wasn't listening. But it's Barcamp.
I drifted off for a minute.
That's okay, the answer's 2. Who votes for option 2? Okay.
You're dead. You were
Sorry.
Jim, you're out.
You wisely decide to stick together. And good thing too, you're suddenly attacked by clients. It's almost as if the entire story is trying to make a very specific point, and the whole team is needed throughout the project. Thanks. During the fray, the mechanic takes a nasty hit. With the help of the medic, the product is amended slightly, that's you, medic, to be more manageable, and he's able to get back on his feet. You're back on the road now, burning through resources, but making good progress, at least as far as any of you can tell. We have a choice to make. Option 1 is to keep going, and option 2 is stop and take stock. Who votes for option 1? Who votes for option 2? More of you for 2. You decide to convince the team to assess their current performance, and the results surprise you. The quartermaster says there's probably isn't enough time left in the schedule, the mechanics is having issues with his flow, and the DIY guy is struggling to keep his work together. This news shocks you, but you are glad to know it now while you still have time to adapt. As a team, you make a supply run which leaves everyone feeling better about what they have left to do. This might actually be achievable. Unfortunately, one of your team, the quartermaster, starts to descend into panic. His distressed antics start to get the team into trouble repeatedly. What do? This is where you have a bit of a turning point potentially. Option 1 is encourage and reassure him, make him feel part of the team again. And option 2 is isolate him. Who votes for option 1? Okay, a few for option 1. Who votes for option 2? Good time. Okay. I'll give you a ring once you finish it like You take the quartermaster and put him in a handy cage. He seems harmless enough now, doing his own thing and not bothering the wider team. Later that night, you're the first one to spot them, the swarm on the horizon. You take shelter in your vehicle, but it is absolutely crucial the swarm doesn't figure out you're in here, or you'll be trapped forever. Unfortunately, the quartermaster has other ideas. He's firing his gun wildly into the air. This is most uncool. This is actually why you decide to eat him first, 2 weeks later. Trapped in your vehicle by the never-tiring swarm, you've all been starved to the point of cannibalism. As you lick the final meat off the quartermaster's bones, you and your 2 remaining friends hold their stomachs, which continue to grumble. You're so hungry, so very hungry. You see the fire in their eyes, and before you have time to react, they're on you, smashing your head in with a rock and scooping your flesh off with a surprisingly sharp spork. You have died in that scenario, but I'm going to give you guys a rewind and you get the last choice again because you didn't win. You're going to encourage and reassure him. You convince the quartermaster that things aren't so bad. Yes, things look dark now, but this will all be over soon. The finish line is on the horizon, except at the minute, when you scan the horizon and you see a terrifying swarm of clients heading in this direction. Quickly, you bark, everyone into the Teamster. It's imperative that you don't attract any attention and let the swarm pass. A group that big will trap you in here forever, and you don't have that much food on you. Huddled together in the vehicle, you and your team cower together as a team, and comfort each other as the hours pass until finally it's safe to emerge. Or so you thought. To your horror, when you turn around, you are faced with the most horrifying prospect of all. Standing before you, although looking very different now, is Jim from the house. Jim, oh my god, Jim, I thought you were dead, but... Jim stares at you blankly. Jim? Jim seems to notice you and opens his mouth, exhaling a pained sound. He moans, "The project is late and over budget." Jim used to be one of you, but alas, he's now one of them, which means it's time to make the final choice. Option 1 is to kill Jim, option 2 is to convince Jim, and option 3 is to run from Jim. Who votes for option 1? Significant. Who votes for convince Jim?
It's all about spin. It's all about spin.
You guys like it. And who votes for option 3, run from Jim? So they're the cowards in the room. Please, Jim, come back to us. Unfortunately, it's too late to save Jim. He devastates you with his scathing assessment of your recent work history, and while you might physically be alive, you feel dead inside and start looking for a new job. However, your team survived, so congratulations, you've won! Congrats, guys. I realised halfway through that I was supposed to be moving these slides. A picture version of what just happened.
Oh my god, that's the X-Pro.
That's the X-Pro, that was the document share team, there's a road, petrol maybe, crazy vehicle track. This is Jim from accounts.
That's a girl.
I'm sure that.
This is Jim from accounts. Accounts people have giant calculators, that's what they do. And I want to leave you guys with this quote from the master himself, which is George A. Romero, kind of inventor of the zombies as we know it today. And I think it holds true for us in our lives as well. The idea that a zombie film is no fun without a bunch of stupid people running around and observing how they deal with the scenario. And I actually think that's the true joy in what we do as well. Hopefully you guys can find that joy and you appreciate that even when the times are bad and when you're going through absolute hell, you have potentially friends around you, and it's a lot of fun actually to see how the dust settles in the end. That's actually the end of my talk. I have no idea how I did for time. Thank you for listening.
What's the last slide? I was going to say, it's killing me. Has anyone got any questions, anyone? I didn't really say any substance, so I think
One question.
Go ahead.
Science.
You yourself are a project manager, are you?
No.
Have you worked with a lot of project
Yes.
Injusts Edge.
A couple of companies. Why are you a project manager?
No.
Are you
Me with a car park.
Oh,
I bet.
I'm dealing with a project at the moment that I've kind of became a project manager.
Yeah.
So
That happens to me as well.
But it's more just like getting the ground running, but it sounds like a cliche. But how would you recommend dealing with
I think the thing, I mean, I tend to find in my own scenarios that it does come down to that kind of leadership stuff I mentioned. And it sounds really big-headed to think of myself as a leader, but when it comes down to it, if nobody else is going to update this damn Trello board, then I'll have to do it. I do. I end up taking over sometimes on projects, not all the time, but sometimes. And yeah, I think as long as I'm a firm believer in kind of making people be better by just encouraging them and communicating with them in the right way. And I think most people, you just need to find the right way to talk to them about how difficult they are or how much they might actually not be totally in the zone the way you need them to be. I think a lot of it is actually really just about interpersonal dynamics. I think that's where a lot of the similarities I see between the two things come from. Yeah, there's no silver bullet, unfortunately. There's always no levels.
Have you only ever worked with a company or have you ever freelanced and joined the company or how would you approach it?
So I tried freelance once. I think I lasted about 2 days. I actually crumbled without like a team around me. I'm not ashamed to admit the fact that I really suck on my own. So I went straight out of university into an internship for one company. That internship turned into a full position at that company where I was for almost 2 years. And then I went from that company to my current company. The bit of freelance was like in the short gap between. And that's when I yeah, I've been there for almost 3 years now. So yeah, that's kind of my story. It's not about me.
It's just how you come to this point.
Yeah.
So you start for project management. You obviously get on a lot of projects. So you
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important actually for everybody to kind of begin to blur the lines around their discipline. Like, I don't think there's necessarily, well, there is room for people who just do one thing and do it really well. But I think you actually really benefit from trying to learn more about the skill sets of the guys around and to engage more with how the project is run, to engage more with the UX guys who are doing that side of it, to edge your way into the little bits of back end that it makes sense for you. For me, I'm a front end developer, especially, so I kind of blur both those directions, or all three of those directions. I'm interested in the things that impact my job rather than treating myself as a complete silo. So yeah, fascinated by what everyone else in the company does besides me. Go ahead.
Like you, I found myself, when I worked full time, I found myself constantly in a position of, not project manager, but almost like project director, voluntarily.
Head of delivery almost.
Yeah, well, almost from a mentoring perspective,
Right.
people will come to me and say, what do you think is the best thing to do next? That's quite a common thing. I mean, for me, I haven't worked with many dedicated project managers. It always tends to be either a senior member that kind of takes control of a project or a task or a sprint, rather than a project manager themselves. I mean, I've worked with project managers where they even sit in the sideline and somebody still self-elects or is elected, is engaged. Do you do the same thing? Right?
Occasionally, yeah, we do. Yeah, I mean, so the company I currently work at is called Etch. Probably should mention that. They'll be furious. I work for Etch, and yeah, we have a scenario where we do have producers / account managers who are often involved in that kind of way. And I guess what we're kind of training against at the minute is that sometimes we don't necessarily feel they're always needed. And one of the things I was kind of trying to be careful about in the game and how I was talking about it is it's not just about saying project managers suck, because they don't. But there is definitely an argument, I think there's definitely an argument that as long as those skills exist within the team, if somebody is able to do the things that a person might do, if someone can, keep an eye on how the schedule's going, keep an eye on potentially a budget if there is one, and is capable of managing that side of things slightly, then it goes to kind of the team thing, keeping your team as lean as possible, but still capable of doing it. So if your team doesn't have anyone who is not good enough, but has the kind of required skills to keep track of that stuff effectively, then I think you need one. But if somebody in the team can do that stuff, I don't think you do. I think it is kind of on a team-by-team basis. You need to really project.
Sometimes they're easy going, sometimes
yeah.
some don't. Well, not don't, but some when I check up on it, some need to check.
Definitely. But yeah, I think it is all about those roles and just matching the skills to the projects and picking the team correctly. It's actually really good part of it. A lot of companies, including ones that I've worked for, will sometimes pick a team just by who is the most immediately available. And that's actually not necessarily the best way to go about it. You do actually want to think about the skills required and just to make the team work effectively. Any other questions? Cool. Back to Dave then.